I'm Gary Kroger with the Bluebonnet Master Gardener Association. We're at the association's demonstration vegetable garden at Belleville Sen Center. And today we're going to talk about planting tomato plants. We've got two varieties that we're going to demonstrate on and two methods for planting those. And we're demonstrating this into the raised beds here at the garden for you today. So with that, we'll start with the first plant. The first variety is the Sweet 100 variety, and has a lot of stems toward its base. One of the things that we like to do for planting these is to trim those off. First of all, tomatoes are a little bit different than trees that you might plant. With trees, you want to keep the upper roots very near the surface of the soil. With tomatoes, you can plant them deeper. Any place that the tomato stem is in contact with the soil, it will root. So you can plant them deep enough to give them better support. The only caution there is to not plant them so deep that the roots will get down into the water saturated soil from heavy rains. So with that, I'm going to start gently trimming off these lower limbs and leaves for this plant so that we can place that well into the soil. You can trim off up to the point that is expected to be the first blooms, the lowest blooms of the plant for the base that. So the plant is more like that, and as a matter of fact, later on when the plant is bigger, if new growth comes out near the base, those are called suckers, and that can be trimmed later as the plant's growing. But for now, we're going to dig a little hole for this. We want to plant it no deeper than 6 inches, so we'll dig a little hole. It doesn't have to be much bigger than the soil that is around the plant at this point. It's important not to put nitrogen right at the root level of the plant. With this garden, we're not using much commercial fertilizer. This garden has had mushroom compost added to it and at a good level. And so we've got good nutrients in these beds for growing this. So with that, we're going to plant this first plant. Okay, be gentle with your plants as you're taking them out of plot. What I like to do is turn it upside down with your hand under it, press on it a little bit to get it to release. This one is not releasing as easily as I like them to, but there it did. You can see the roots around there. It's got a nice root system with a lot of white roots on it, which are indicating good healthy roots. You can leave that in place and just place it in the hole. You can plant this plant pretty deep, like I said, up to 6 inches. Press firmly but lightly to firm up the soil around the plant so it'll stay there. Now, in the spring, when we have a lot of high winds and possible frost, you may need to give the plant some wind and frost protection. One way that we often do this is to take a 2 or 3 gallon plastic plant pot with the bottom cut out and place it around the plant. We don't have that with us today to put on here, but that will give it some wind protection and can also help when you cover it for frost protection if that's needed. Now we'll demonstrate planting of another method of planting the tomatoes. First of all, I'd like to point out that spacing on tomatoes is important also. You want at least 3 feet between plants when you plant that. I actually like to use more space than that, especially if you're using the bigger indeterminate type tomatoes, which can take up a lot of room. The tomato plants need a lot of sunshine to produce well, so spacing them out if your garden space allows you to do that, will help you have better production. I want to talk about the two different types of tomatoes also. There's the determinate type, which is a bush type tomato, and there's the indeterminate type tomato, which is a binding type tomato. When you buy plants at a nursery, it'll come in a container and with a tag that usually tells you whether it's determinate or indeterminate. If you like the shorter bush type tomatoes, then buy the determinate. If you like binding that can grow very tall and that you'll have to provide some structure for support for the tomato, you buy the indeterminate. And of course, there's a lot of different varieties of tomatoes that you can choose from to get what you're looking for, whether you like the smaller cherry tomatoes or the bigger tomatoes. This tomato is the cherry tomato, and you can see it's a little taller, lankier tomato, and we're going to trim the bottom of it also, similar to what we've done on other plants. But the method for planting this is going to be a little bit different. In a tall, lanky plant, we're going to demonstrate that you can dig a trench for this and lay the tomato down in the trench, as long as you maintain the no more than about 6 inches depth for the roots of the plant. So with that, we're going to trim this and then we'll put it in the ground. Okay, we've trimmed back pretty severely on this one, but we're going to demonstrate the trench method for planting this now. Dig a little trench. Depending on how tall and lanky your tomato plant is, will determine how long of a trench you need to dig. But you can get it out of the pot, and once again, you can see the root system on this plant. What I'll do is lay this down into the trench and gently tilt the plant up and cover all the root system. And this way the tall, lanky plant has better support for against wind damage and so forth. It's also important to water the plants in once you've got them planted, especially if the soil is dry. This helps to settle the soil around the roots and make good contact between the roots and the soil. So water your plant in once you have it in the ground. And we'll give the other plant a watering also.